The Big 12 football schedule was released not that long ago, so let's go ahead and break it down. I'm going to give you some key takeaways, some must-watch games, etc. All right, the Big 12 is wasting no time getting things kicked off in the 2025 college football season. They've got a key game in Dublin, and they've got a key non-conference matchup in Week 0. So you don't have to wait too long for Big 12 action. You got two games that you're going to have to watch in Week 0, Iowa State and Kansas State in Dublin, right? Very unique setting for Farmageddon. I will tell you, I am excited about this because, obviously, you want a game like this in Dublin to start off the season. You want a fun game. However, losing this game from a cold, late-season atmosphere, it's a tough pill to swallow. Right, I think that's the easiest way to put it. I'm not certain that I want it to be in Week 0, a conference game right off the bat. I mean, this is a huge, huge matchup for both of these teams, both of which Iowa State made it to the championship game in the conference last year. Kansas State was a game out. So this is a massive, massive game. I would prefer that it be on campus. However, Week 0, it certainly gives us something interesting to watch. And then you've got Fresno State at Kansas. Sneaky non-conference test for the Jayhawks. This is a pretty good game, right? This is Fresno. It wasn't great last year, certainly, but they've got a new head coach, former North Dakota State head coach that joined USC, etc. So Fresno going to be breaking in a new quarterback. But they do have talent. So it's a Mountain West team that does have talent. So that's certainly something to pay attention to. In Week 2. Week 1 is one thing. Week 2, you've got the most important non-conference weekend for the Big 12, period. Oklahoma State goes to Oregon, so Oklahoma State, chance to make a statement, or they could get run off the field by last year's number 1 seed in the CFP. But Oregon is going through some changes as well. They're going to be changing quarterbacks, etc. Iowa goes to Iowa State. That's the Cy-Hawk rivalry. Both teams looking to stay nationally relevant. Iowa State has to go to Dublin, and then in Week 1, they play South Dakota at home, and then they get Iowa at home. And then in Week 4, they got to play at Arkansas State. But Iowa at Iowa State in Week 2 with very little rest time from traveling internationally. Massive game for the Cyclones. Kansas at Missouri. We get the border war back. That's good. It could feature 2 ranked teams for the first time in quite some time. Missouri going to be changing quarterbacks as well. Kansas, they got Daniels back at quarterback, changing offensive coordinators again. What is this Lance Leipold team going to look like? Arizona State at Mississippi State. Defending Big 12 champs, you can't lose to an SEC bottom feeder, right? And that's a huge, huge thing. But Arizona State, you got at Mississippi State, then you host Texas State, and then you play at Baylor in Week 4 before you play TCU at home. So it's a pretty rough stretch to open the season. So you got to make sure and get that one done. Kansas State hosts Army in Week 2. Obviously, classic Service Academy challenge. Chris Kleiman knows what to do with triple option teams. He understands that offense. These early conference games, these are going to set the tone, right? In Week 4, you got Texas Tech at Utah. That's September 20th. Massive showdown. It's 2 teams with huge Big 12 title implications. Utah, fresh off a disappointing season. They need a bounce back, and I think they will. Jason Beck, of course, the new offensive coordinator. He brings with him Devin Dampier, the quarterback from New Mexico that was just all over the place. Absolutely incredible. And then, of course, we talked on another video, Texas Tech's Joey McGuire is under pressure to deliver this season because of the transfer portal class that they brought in. So, big things going on with Texas Tech as well. TCU at Arizona State, Week 5. I brought that one up already. Arizona State aiming to defend the title. However, TCU, a lot of talent. Maybe the most talent in the league. We'll see. But this is certainly going to be a test for both of these teams. BYU goes to Colorado. We saw that in the bowl game. Week 5, September 27th, Colorado changing out quarterbacks. BYU has a ton of guys left. It's 2 teams that tied for first in 2024. Let's see exactly what Colorado is made of. The week before that, Colorado hosts Wyoming. The week after, they play at TCU. With BYU, they play at East Carolina. Then they go to Colorado. And then they've got West Virginia the following Friday. So, something to pay attention to. As far as mid-season showdowns, go ahead and mark your calendars for Week 7 and Week 8. Week 7, October 11th, you got Kansas at Texas Tech. Both of these teams believe that they've got the talent to win the Big 12. It could be an elimination game, potentially. Kansas plays at UCF the week before, and they've got a bye the week after. Texas Tech, on the other hand, they play at Houston, then they host Kansas, and then they've got at Arizona State. So a bit of a sandwich game for Texas Tech. TCU goes to Kansas State that week. Two of the league's most consistent programs. This is a kind of make-or-break year for TCU. They really need to do some things with Sonny Dykes in this season. Kansas State, on the other hand, Avery Johnson, it feels like, was hurt for most of last season. If he's healthy, what can they end up doing? That's what I'm really curious about. Week 8, October 18th, that's the biggest conference week. Baylor at TCU, obviously, massive rivalry, heated rivalry in the conference. Both of these teams have Big 12 title aspirations. Utah at BYU, that was one of the best games of last season. If you remember it, a late-night game. Now, Utah, if they've got the offense fixed, they could be in the title race. BYU, of course, returns a lot from a team that tied for first in the Big 12 last year. Texas Tech at Arizona State, I've brought this one up. Massive stakes in this one. Texas Tech believes that they have the most talent in the conference. Arizona State, of course, made the college football playoff last year and had a good run in an overtime game against Texas. Rivalry week, and really smart scheduling in Week 14. They spread out their rivalry games instead of stacking them against the huge rivalries with Ohio State, Michigan, the SEC's best rivalries, etc. But that weekend, you are going to get Arizona at Arizona State on that Friday. Curious what Arizona's going to look like this year. They did not look very good in the first year of Brent Brennan. Arizona State, obviously, we saw what they were capable of last year. They returned quite a bit, but they are going to look a little bit different in Kenny Dillingham's third season. Houston at Baylor, old SWC days. That's going to be a big one in the state of Texas. Colorado at Kansas State. This is an old-school Big 12 North showdown. What are they going to look like? This was a huge game, really fun game last year in Colorado. This year, it's going to be in the Little Apple in Manhattan. Iowa State at Oklahoma State. Two of the few remaining original Big 12 teams, but that game is always a lot of fun. Texas Tech at West Virginia. It's not a rivalry, but if you're Texas Tech, the last thing you want to do is go to West Virginia this season to close out. You don't want to have to go to Morgantown, but it is what it is. So let's talk about the teams that have some brutal schedules, maybe some, I don't want to call it unfair bye-week disadvantages, but we'll go with that for now. BYU has a nightmare stretch. They've got 6 straight games with 4 on the road, ending with a fresh Iowa State team that comes off 2 byes in 4 weeks. That's not going to be good. TCU has a 7-game gauntlet. They've got a week 2 bye, and then they've got 7 straight games, and that includes Arizona State, Kansas State, West Virginia, all on the road. Oklahoma State, they have a 7-game stretch. Unlike TCU, they get 4 of those at home, but that's still, 6 straight. That's a grind when you got 2 byes in there. As far as final thoughts here, at the 2025 Big 12 schedule, a ton of statement games. You've got some brutal stretches for some of these teams. I'm curious your thoughts on it. Toss in the comments. Let me know your biggest takeaways for whoever your team might be. But let's discuss it. Let's keep this conversation going.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter at GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question, you can email me, Gary@winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.